And we are back. What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in once again. My name is Eric Asensio, host of the best mental health podcast out right now, and that is Inebriated Culture. But this episode is a little bit more special. This episode is a little bit more different, and it's going to be something we all can learn from because I am not alone. I have a very, very smart person on, someone who's going to teach us not only a new way of thinking, but him and I do not have the same views, but that's the point. I want you to learn something. So please, people, be open-minded. And please welcome my guest, Victor Ortiz.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course. I'm very excited for this conversation, man, because, I'm not really surrounded by a bunch of people who are as successful in the business world like you. I'm not saying that I'm not around successful people.
Sure.
But this is actually a very different company. And I really appreciate it. So, again, I just want to thank you for taking time out of your busy week to be here.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for the hospitality. You have a sick setup here.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. So check this out, man. Let's just jump right into it. So let me ask you this, like I ask every single one of my guests, what does mental health mean to you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Mental health, I think I can answer this in a couple of different ways, but I'm going to go with mental health to me is being able to go to sleep at night knowing that throughout the day you accomplished everything that you could have possibly accomplished humanly possible with all the minutes that you had.
So what you're saying to me is being structured can bring peace, can bring some sort of satisfaction. Because I know a lot of people like to be carefree and just kind of go about their day, But to me, what you're saying sounds like being structured is very important.
Yeah, I think to a certain extent, everybody has to be structured. You don't necessarily have to have your own business or necessarily have, extracurricular activities going on to be structured. Even if it's something as simple as I will get to work 10 to 15 minutes early every day this week. If I accomplish that goal, most likely I'll be able to accomplish a bigger goal.
I like that. So for you, what are you doing right now in life that, let's just say, keeping the lights on? What are you doing, and how are you with accomplishing your goals on a daily basis? So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, we're meeting deadlines. The pandemic and COVID was we probably made the most money we did in any historic year that we ever did. And what I'm alluding to is my family has a business. We have Mexican restaurants by the name of El Pescador, and we were definitely kind of taken aback during the pandemic. We had to make a lot of adjustments. I think with all businesses as a whole, a lot of different places were not able to survive the pandemic. Hence, they shut down. They weren't able to survive. I myself have friends who never made it through the pandemic. But basically what we do is we're a chain of restaurants. We've never franchised. We're completely family owned. And something special that me and my dad are doing is we're getting into commercial real estate. And that has so many different facets and so many different sectors. So we could get into it. But yeah, right now we're just focused on meeting these deadlines, acquisitions, and yeah, man, the sky's the limit.
I like that. It seems like there's gonna be a lot of success in the future, and I really hope that you achieve all your goals. And you brought up COVID, and it's something I actually forgot about. But during COVID, not only was it difficult for people financially, but it was difficult for people emotionally. The point of mental health, a lot of people struggled mentally. Now, with all the things on your plate, what kept you going through the days where do you ever go through any moments of depression, anxiety, any moments of kind of like self-doubt because of COVID? And what did you do to overcome that? Or were there days you didn't overcome it? How did you keep going?
I think that could best be answered by I do not let myself be consumed by negative thought. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have negative thoughts. In this world, there's going to be a lot of risks. You're going to take a lot of risks. There's going to be a lot of choices to be made. Not all choices will be good choices. Hence, you'll get anxiety from a lot of those choices. But I think the best thing you can do is to focus on the positive decisions that you've made. And not to get too deep, but I think the fuel to my fire is knowing that I have to make my unborn children proud of me. And I think that has been the driving factor through everything that I've done in life.
So you want to, like, it, once you do reach that point in life where you have a family and you have people that you're not just taking care of, because I'm sure you take care of your family right now, but being a father or a mother, it's a different kind of taking care. So you want to leave your children with something, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's about legacy. I think,
I like that.
yeah, I think you can acquire a certain amount of wealth and then get lazy. You can acquire a certain amount of wealth and get complacent or stagnant. But I think legacy is what keeps you going. Now, look, money is not the end all be all. I'm the first person to say that money definitely does not make you happy. Um, I I don't think money automatically makes you happy, but I also think that money doesn't automatically depress me either. Mm-hmm. You do need some type of income to get yourself out of certain situations, whether it be education, medical situations you might be in. Sometimes
debt in general.
Yeah, just life in general. Sometimes you're in a bind. That family member is going to hit you up for money.
Yeah.
And when they do hit you up, you don't want to tell them, oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. I don't want to scrape into my emergency funds. But anyway, I think, yeah, the driving factor is knowing that, look, numbers never end. You're never going to have enough money. It never ends. But knowing that you left a legacy of someone who was true to themselves, someone who pushed themselves every day, I think that's the important part to get out of it.
I like that. It's very important to I'm very glad you said that, because it's very important for people to understand that, because there's two kinds of people right now, unfortunately, that are just growing every day. It's the person that says money doesn't bring you happiness, and there's people who just completely bullshit that and just say money is everything.
Sure.
But what you're saying is that there has to be an in between.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to have a balance. Anybody who's unhappy that gets gifted $1 million is not going to be happy. I think anybody who thinks or has an illusion that money is automatically going to solve all their problems, all their mental health problems, psychological problems, money doesn't necessarily fix everything. I think money just magnifies the person that you are currently. Mm. So if you're a good person now, you'll just become a better person. Got you.
So what is your take on people who don't have money and they come into a large lump sum of money? And like you said, you said money doesn't change people, right? Or money changes people?
Yeah, I think money magnifies who you are.
Okay. What do you think about those people who don't get money, get a lot of money, then become like assholes, become jerks?
Yeah, well, I think they show their true colors, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like maybe before they weren't assholes because they didn't have money, but they were always an asshole. And then they do show their true colors when they get into a little bit of money. And then, look, if somebody has no money and then gets a lot of money out of nowhere, I would say run to a financial advisor immediately, because you are probably going to fuck it up. Right?
It's like a 99% chance.
Yeah, I think when you see a check, you see a lot of zeros, you have to keep your composure and know that this isn't the end of the line. There's more out there.
Yeah, I like that, because the reason why I bring that up is because I know a lot of people who live with depression, anxiety, mental health related issues and illnesses. A lot of them let's face it, a lot of people are in that mental state because they're broke, or they don't have the money to do the things that they want to do, because for example, I've had days where I didn't get a check and I had to ask for help. And then, like you said, like I would get some money, fuck it up. But my mind wasn't on the goal. My mind was just on the temporary emotions. So with that being said, how do you separate your emotions when you do get that nice size check? Like, how do you separate your emotions? Because you're saying right now, like, just keep your composure. But how do you, Victor, how do you keep your composure?
Well, you have to talk to people who have been there before, right?
I like that.
You have to surround you have to surround yourself with people who have been there before. You have to get advised by people who have been there before. Everyone knows you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Yeah. And I would say, if I was to put a number on the average age of my friend, I would say they're somewhere in their 40s.
Wow.
Me being 28 years old, most of the time, I should be in the clubs. I should be spending time with people who are my age. But because I know that there's a certain goal that I want to get to. I know that I have to spend time with those people who are more knowledgeable than me.
Yeah.
Spend time with them, get as much knowledge as I can from them, and absorb as I can.
Yeah, I like that. I like that because let's face it, a lot of people who are struggling financially, they don't surround themselves with people who aren't struggling. And basically, a lot of us who got, I don't want to say us because I don't hang around with people like that, but
Right.
a lot of people are broke. Their friends are broke, you know. And basically, what you're saying is, yeah, if you get a nice check, don't go to your broke friends for advice.
Absolutely. They're going to want to spend the bag.
Yeah.
They're going to want to go to the club. They're going to want to buy that fancy toy. They're going to want to buy things that are not going to multiply your money.
So your focus when it comes to your finances is to multiply it, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Good, good. Now that we're still on this friend topic, when it comes to your social life, because it seems like you surround yourself with business, and that's good, and you seem very, very conscious to not allow business to take over your entire brain. But when it comes to your social life, when it comes to your friends, how do you separate that? How do you separate your social life from your work life?
Yeah, you got to have fun, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You got to have some fun. You got to throw some fun in there. The business world is fun in and of itself because it is hyper competitive. I think it is probably the most competitive sport because it's 24/7. It never stops. The ball never stops rolling.
It's true.
However, you do have to make time to reach out to your loved ones, hang out with your friends. This time back into mental health, sometimes you can be consumed by business. It could get the best of you. And I think there's definitely a time and a place to enjoy. I think the best businessmen and women that I know how to integrate their life in terms of professionalism with their personal life, and they have a perfect work-life balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's very important. The reason why I asked is because a lot of people have this mentality of you got to grind every day, all that shit. And that's smart. But a lot of people take that and think, okay, I can't have a social life. I can't do anything. I just need to put everything I have into my work. But then that's not always a good thing because like you said, you can get consumed by it. And then eventually you start realizing, holy shit, I don't have anything other than my work life.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to make time. You got to make time for everything. There's definitely enough time in the day so that you can do everything. Now, granted, sometimes there are 3 months where you have to disappear.
Yeah.
You have to have hyper focus in one thing. I think being able to do a mental check with yourself and know that this is temporary. Eventually, I will reach out to all the people I need to reach out to. It's almost like you have the right number, but you just called it the wrong time. Check back in 3 months.
I like that. I'm going to need people who just listen to that to write that shit down because that was a very good line. Now, it sounds to me like you've done that before. You've cut people off, not because they did anything, but because it's like, all right, now it's time to put Victor first. How do you handle, let's say, backlash? Because I'm in that process right now where I'm kind of separating myself from my friends, not because they're bad people, not because I don't want to kick with them, but simply because, you know what? Our paths are going 2 different ways. And if I go down your path, I'm never going to accomplish what's on mine.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like you've done that before.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't mean you don't love them, right? We all love our friends, whether it's the friend that you had in elementary school, middle school, high school, etc. I think we always want good things for the people that are around us, people who are instrumental in our lives. Everybody represents a different chapter in our lives. When you do reach a certain level, and I'm not talking just business, I'm talking like on a personal level, I think you have the ability to permeate love without investing all of your time into that person.
I like that. So basically what you're saying is you can be there for them, but you don't have to give them your all.
Yeah, they reach out to you, they have some advice. You can definitely give them some advice, but it's kind of like a gift that you drop off on someone's porch, and they could either choose to open the door and pick it up, or they could leave it out there in the cold. It's completely up to them.
I like that. Now, during these moments of your life when you were, well, it sounds to me like you're still motivated, still working, still, creating new opportunities for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
But have you ever faced obstacles where friends became foes?
Yeah. This is something that happens a lot in business. This is not something that is special to me. I think anyone that has been in the business world has been backstabbed. Um, they have been deceived in some way, shape, or form. I think some of the best business people have been burned before, and it could come in the form of lending someone money, they don't pay you back. They were playing the smoke and mirrors trick, thinking that they had your best interest in their heart. In the long run, they did not. Um, to these people, you don't necessarily have to give them any of your energy that you could be spending on better things.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are like everyone likes to talk about taking W's and taking L's and whatnot, but I think you either take a W, and if you don't take a W, I think it's just feedback.
I like that. So, say you take, okay, I don't want to say an L because I know you don't really see it like that, but say you take a loss, right? For someone else, it might be an L to them. What you're saying is don't focus on it as a loss, but take it as a lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you probably wouldn't want to circle back around to that person again. Now, if you get burned twice, that's shame on you, right?
Yeah.
You learn things about people, and then the really interesting thing is once you start knowing how to identify these people, you are able to see red flags before they are able to hurt you.
Mm-hmm. And it seems to me like you carry yourself very well, and you like to be a good friend. It sounds to me like you like to be a good, you like to be a good boyfriend. You like to be a good son. You like to be a good whatever it is to anybody. So, just out of curiosity, what does being a good friend mean to you?
They can count on me. They can count on me no matter what. If you are part of my circle, you can 100% count on me. If there is any type of roadblock in the way, I will help you move it. I will do everything in my power to make sure that I educate myself so that I can give you the best tools so that you can get through it.
Now, would you say that that's how everybody should? Because I love that, but would you say that's how everybody should kind of be to be a good friend? Because I do know that a lot of people being a good friend right now unfortunately means, oh, I'm gonna go out with you every single week and get you fucked up, right? And that's just the world we live in. Everybody thinks that the weekends are a time to take a break from your actual life, but sometimes it's kind of like, no, being a good friend isn't dragging your homie or your homegirl to the bar every single week. So when it comes to your social life, when it comes to you whatever it is that is your escape, how important is it to be straightforward with friends? How and have you ever been in a situation where someone had to check you or correct you or tell you, hey, you're not really on your shit right now?
Absolutely. I think the person that has been most instrumental in my life for keeping me on the right track has definitely been my dad. Um, I would like to think that I'm self-managing and self-policing, and I think as I get older and older, I'm more disciplined in the way that I handle myself. But we're kids. We're all kids at one point, and sometimes we hit a bump in the road. We make knucklehead decisions, and you definitely need someone there that's going to be brutally honest with you. I don't know anyone, as far as people who are successful, that don't have a circle around them that are brutally honest, right? And then a big portion of my friends, they do reach a certain level of status where sometimes they are in a room full of yes men. They are in a room full of people that don't want to offend them, because in offending them, they think that they will get cut off. But it's actually the contrary. The higher you go up, the more successful the person is, they actually yearn for the people who put them in check more than the people that maybe tell them what they want to hear.
So it'd be smart to surround yourself with people who are straightforward with you right now, early, especially before someone reaches success, because those are going to be the people who kind of hold you down, who actually hold you down. Because I know a lot of people right now, they think that the people around them are holding them down, but really it's just like they're actually holding you down. They're not holding you down. They're keeping you from your true potential.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any friends that you felt like their energy or their negativity or just they themselves were holding you down? And did you ever have to cut anybody off? Did you ever have to separate or end that friendship?
Yeah, and I think we have to look at this from a metric of they themselves are doing the best they can. If they think that dragging you to the club every weekend, or getting drunk, or doing things that are ultimately detrimental to your health, if they believe that that's the best thing to do, to a certain extent, from a human perspective, you have to cut them some slack, because that is how they self-soothe. That doesn't mean it has to be how you self-soothe. They're doing the best they can, and I think you can only ask someone to do the best of their abilities. I do believe that everyone has to be held accountable. I do think that everybody has to hold their own weight. But if you call up three of your closest friends, you understand their limitations, and you understand that they could only go to a certain extent to help you. And in knowing that, you have to accept that, and you have to love them just the same. Uh, Going back to our point earlier, I think when it comes to those people that only self-soothe or only deal with stress in self-harming type ways, there's definitely a time and a place, right? We're not Boy Scouts. We gotta have fun. We gotta go out and party sometimes. But you definitely have to know that it's a time and a place, and you definitely have to know who you can count on truly.
I like that. I like that a lot because unfortunately, a lot of us think that you need to hold on to bonds for as long as you can. But sometimes you don't realize that the same thing you're holding on to is fucking breaking your goddamn hand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
And it's smart to have to learn how to separate yourself. And you know what? I also like that you said that, because to me, it's what I'm picking up from the most is you can't hold grudges for how people are.
No.
Because when you start holding grudges for how someone is, then you're just gonna start having resentment, and it's just like, what's the point of gravitating all that negative energy when you can just accept them but choose to do what the fuck you want to do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you hit it on the head. Be a realist.
Yeah.
Be a realist. I'm not saying that you're gonna start cutting people off and that your whole friend group is gonna be all these successful, highly emotional IQ individuals. It's gonna happen little by little. But when you are starting with your core group of people, and it might be people that you grew up with, it might be people that are family friends, it might be people you went to high school with, college, you have to start somewhere, right? That's how networking works. But you do have to understand that each friend group and each network is going to have their certain intricate specialties, and certain financial advisors that I would run to, I wouldn't necessarily go to if I want to plan a weekend to Cabo or something like that.
Got you.
Yeah.
So it's good to just be cool with everybody that you come up with, that respects you, that loves you, but at the same time understand, like, I don't want to sound harsh, but don't give them your all, but give them the real you.
Yeah, 100%. Because I think if you are giving them your all, then you can only give yourself to so many people, right? You only have a certain amount of usable minutes in a day. And if you're giving your time and energy to something that's not giving you a return, then you are doing yourself a disservice.
Got you. Got you. Now, speaking to you, learning more about your mentality, I'm picking up that you come from a very strong-willed family. It's people who obviously they've had to hold their own to teach you how to hold your own. Now, growing up, what was your childhood like? Was your dad like the old school, like, tough guy trying to teach you football? Was your mother the, like, oh, I love you, sweetheart? What was the dynamic in the home when you were growing up? What was Victor like as a kid?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I had my mom, I had my two older twin sisters, and I had my dad, who was going out there and breadwinning for us, trying to conquer as much as he can in the business world. So I think early on in my childhood, the biggest teacher that I had was my mom. She definitely taught me about empathy. She taught me about humanity. She taught me just how to treat people and how to be a good person. And when I came of age and I started to gravitate towards my dad, he taught me about the business world, and he taught me how to work, how to put your head down and work, how to be cutthroat, how to be skeptical of people in the right way. And I think the sequence of how I learned these things was super beneficial to me, because first I learned empathy and humanity from my mom, which was amazing. And then I learned about being cutthroat in the business world for my dad. Now, these are both really important things to learn for anybody, whether you're in the business world or whatever the case may be. These are really important things. But I think the special thing that I like to focus on is that I was a good person, and I learned that from my mom. And then I was able to venture off into the business world and learn how to defend myself. Because I believe if I learned in reverse, if I learned how to defend myself first and to be a little skeptical of people, I might have not been that receptive to learn how to be a nice person and humanity and empathy. So all credit to my mom. My mom did a great job for the first couple years of my life. And then once I was of age and I was able to work, I think I started working at about 10 years old, 6-7 hours at a time, peeling shrimp, chopping, helping out wherever I could. I think I'm super grateful for my mom and super grateful for my dad, because without my mom, perhaps I wouldn't have the empathy that I have, but without my dad, I wouldn't have the work ethic. So they both were very instrumental.
I like that. I like that. And when you say just chopping onions and shrimp, you talking about the restaurant?
Yeah.
Does your family just really like to make you work in the kitchen?
Yeah, no. My mom didn't have me in the kitchen for hours slaving away. I definitely was working in my family business, and it was kind of like punch in, punch out. It was like, when you're in here, you don't know me, I don't know you. You're just another employee. You got to get to work. And so what I did was I learned from my coworkers, which were probably 3 to 4 times my age at the time. But I would ask them questions. I would ask them how to do things. I learned a lot about just practical things, about plumbing, electricity, chopping, preparing, high stress situations. And so I'm super grateful for that. I'm really grateful for that. And I think that's a huge reason why I'm going to continue the family business, because I want my kids to have the same opportunities to learn like I did. And sometimes you just got to hand a kid a knife and tell him to start chopping. As dangerous as that sounds, it really worked.
Safety
really worked
first, people.
Yeah,
wear the special
first.
gloves. I like that. Especially because now I mean this with no offense, but from the common person to see you, you drive nice cars, you dress well, you got a nice watch on. I'm sure people don't think, oh, he's humble. I'm sure people have this like negative view. Not everybody, but let's face it, a lot of people here are judgmental, and they don't realize that your success wasn't just overnight, and that your success isn't
sex. Yeah, lots of sex. That's the secret. Lots of sex.
Keep yourself happy, people, in the best way ever. But what I'm trying to say is basically, have you ever been discredited for what you do just based off image alone?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And to those people, I don't need to explain myself, but they definitely weren't there in the early years. They weren't there for the struggles. They certainly don't know what my family has been through or has had to go through to achieve the things that we've been able to afford ourselves today. I think one of the things that my dad did early on, that one of the smartest things he did was he was able to, as soon as he got himself into a little bit of money, and he went through his own ups and downs. I mean, he was stolen from, he got cheated out of a couple of businesses. I mean, he definitely lost before he gained. One thing that he did was, as soon as he kind of got into a little bit of success, is he did go to these people who were smarter than him, and he did go to these lawyers, financial advisors, and instead of spending the money on things he couldn't afford, he instead started to invest his money. And I have to thank him for that, because a lot of what I know today is because of him, and because he was able to keep his composure early on. That's why we don't really listen to the haters. Look, a lot of people are going to
Facts.
Make assumptions about you. They're going to say things about you that are not necessarily true. I think sometimes giving light to these people adds more fuel to the fire. I think the best revenge you can do to your haters is to just continue to stay focused on your path, continue to find success in different things. And if they are still there, if they are, hating on you, because I understand that a lot of people could have these people in their intimate circles. And I mean, for me, I would say it's best to cut those people off completely. I understand that could be difficult for some people, but I think the best thing you can do is just to stay focused on your path and know that your truth is eventually going to come out on top. Staying focused, not getting deterred just because somebody said something mean. You're not going to give them unnecessary energy, but no, just staying focused and making sure that your energy is going somewhere positive, because that's ultimately where you want to be.
I like that. I like that you had a lot of beautiful messages into that, because unfortunately, you know, we live in this world where some people are just giving too much attention to the people who are hating on them, you know?
Sure.
And like that's what, and it's so funny and it's so petty to see people get in arguments on Instagram and Twitter and just in life in general. Like, why are you arguing with someone who doesn't want to see you win?
Yeah, they have time.
Yeah.
They have time. They clearly have time to do that. I do not have time. I do not have time to sit there on a keyboard and explain to someone exactly why they are wrong, why they should view me in a different light. I do not have time for this. And to other people that have time to go back and forth, like Kevin Durant does a lot with his haters online.
Yeah.
God bless him. If he has time to do that, that's fantastic. But personally, me, I do not have time to do that. I need to stay the course and know that what I'm doing is correct.
Tunnel vision.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, 100%.
Tunnel vision, because, you know, and you know, it's funny, like tunnel vision doesn't mean that you won't be affected by it, but it's kind of like traffic, you know, you're going down a literal tunnel. If someone's on the left lane, just go the fuck around them.
Yep.
Don't stay behind them beeping like, hurry up, go faster.
Yeah.
So it's basically just avoiding it,
Yeah.
not giving it the attention.
Yeah,
I
it's
like that,
insanity. It's insanity to try to stay in that lane knowing that you're not going to go anywhere.
And I think people need to start realizing that more. I think a lot of us are focused on proving our point rather than getting to the point.
Yeah.
And that's something that we got to change. It's like, look, you know, it's like it's black and white, you know. Stop trying to create color in a black and white type of situation.
Ooh,
You know what I mean?
that part.
Like, stop trying to, like you said, don't prove yourself. Don't try to explain yourself. If there's a road bump, get past it. Don't try to dig through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. That's actually something that I'm glad you brought up, because let's face it, you know, we live in a world where we get excited by arguing and fighting and all this shit, and sometimes it's like, nah, it's not that good. But just to kind of, you know, little segue here, terrible segue, but fuck it, you know, it's my podcast, I can say whatever the fuck I want.
That's right. That is right.
How do you feel when you go through adversity, when you have days that you are struggling internally? How do you get over? Well, like, let me ask you this first. Have you ever gone through moments in your life where you do go through some sort of depression, some sort of anxiety, some sort of mental health related difficulty?
Yeah, I think that comes in different levels. And what I mean by that is sometimes you have setbacks, and sometimes they're going to be necessary setbacks. And knowing how to separate the things that you need to focus your energy on versus the things that are just kind of necessary along the way, along your journey to success. Knowing how to differentiate those things is super important, because adversity comes in different forms, and it comes in different frequencies, and it comes in different through different avenues. When you reach some type of adversity, whether it be in business, in personal life, heartbreak, whatever the case may be, you can either learn from it, or you can repeat the same mistake and dwell on the situation. And I think it could be best summed up with, there's two types of paths you can choose. When something happens to you, you could either take the path where now you have post-traumatic stress, or you can take the path of post-traumatic growth.
Damn, hold on. Just for the people in the back listening, what did you just say? You said post-traumatic stress and post-traumatic growth. I have never heard that until right now. Please go off on that.
Yeah, so you have two choices, really. Post-traumatic stress is real, and I don't want to discredit anybody that goes through post-traumatic stress, because it's definitely a thing. It's definitely something that's primitive. Post-traumatic stress is our primitive nature trying to make sure that we don't go through that same pain again. However, being who we are today, being civilized humans, and being able to rationalize why we think certain things, we can turn that post-traumatic stress into post-traumatic growth. And being able to change the frequency from negative to positive will definitely change the way you looked at that situation or the event completely.
You know, it's very true. And unfortunately, This is the thing that pisses me off about mental health right now is a lot of people are like, oh, talk about your pain, talk about it, think about it, and it's like, that's important, get it out of your system. But where we get lost in is now that's all you talk about. Now that's
Yeah.
all you think about.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is, all right, you acknowledged it. Now do something the fuck about it.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Do something about it. Do something that's going to be instrumental in the way that you carry on with your life. You don't want to be the person who dwells on the past. You don't want to be the person who can honestly say that they went through a situation and didn't learn anything from it. Um, the bad days are coming, and this goes for everyone. The bad days are coming. You're definitely going to have yourself or someone around you pass away. You're definitely going to have someone betray you. You're going to have heartbreak. You're going to have these bumps in the road. However, I'll be damned if I'm not able to get at least one thing positive out of every experience. And there is one thing positive out of everything experienced. Don't be mistaken. You cannot fall into this pattern of, I'm the victim, this happened to me, it was all negative. Well, did you learn from it? No, I didn't learn anything from it. There is definitely something you can gather from each event in your life. And if you're able to do that, I promise you, if it happens again, it will be less painful. Or if you're able to evade the situation completely, then you can save yourself that time. But I don't believe in people saying that a negative situation happened to them and they did not learn at least one good thing from it.
Yeah, no, that's a terrible thing, because what people don't realize is that, like, let's kind of jump into relationships now. What people don't realize is that if you're constantly in failed relationships, stop blaming the other person. Look at you and see, maybe you're making the wrong decisions. And I think, compared to now, let's a little bit go back to your point, is learn what the fuck is going on and why it's causing you to feel this way, so you don't make that same mistake. But unfortunately, people who are stuck in this mentality of only talking about their pain and not doing something about it, they keep themselves in this cycle of repetitiveness. Like, I'm still feeling like shit. I'm still lost. I'm still confused. But then not a lot of people are asking themselves why. Instead, they're just kind of wallowing in their sorrow. And what I'm picking up from you is, ask yourself why this is happening and what can I do about it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you touched on a good point there, is that sometimes that heartbreak is not necessarily the other person's fault. Sometimes you do get betrayed, and sometimes you had a partial play in it, right?
Accountability.
Accountability. You have to be able to step back and be that person that says, yeah, maybe that was a crappy person, or maybe I instigated the situation, or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, you are responsible for your own actions. You have to be able to look in the mirror and say, maybe I did fuck up. Maybe I did mess up. Maybe I did the wrong thing. Maybe I took a misstep. And being able to do that, I believe, gives you supreme control of your life, gives you supreme confidence, because when you put the blame on others, you put the power in others. When you put the blame on you, you give the power back to yourself.
I like that. And you know what? That's a good point to touch on, because some people can't handle looking themselves in the mirror and saying it's your fault. Because a lot of people take it as, oh, it's going to be detrimental to my own mental health. I'm blaming myself. I'm supposed to feel bad about it. But really, it's just like, no, you're giving yourself the power. You're giving yourself the power to grow from whatever adversity you're facing. And that's important, because like I said, like I keep talking about, a lot of people who live with mental health related issues and illnesses, we just like to wallow in the sorrow. And sometimes just looking yourself in the motherfucking mirror and be like, hey, stop doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is just the answer. And it can be as simple as that, rather than running away,
Yeah, absolutely. This is not easy to do. This takes a lot of self-reflection to be able to take a situation out of context and put it back together and ask yourself, did I do all the necessary actions for this situation to turn out positive? And most of the time the answer is no. And if the answer is no, then that's beautiful, because you can learn from that. That's experience. You can build off of that. And next time you go forward, you definitely have something to think about when it comes down to decision making.
Mm-hmm. No, I like that. And I hope people are actually listening, because this is solid information that people need to take in. But I do want to bring this up now, because we were kind of touching on the relationship, and I don't want to run away from that. how do you handle relationships in your personal life? Because to me it sounds like you are goal oriented, which is obvious, and you're focused, but at the same time you're a human fucking being and you want to probably love a woman and be with a woman. How do you handle relationships at who you are right now?
Yeah, it's like an on-off switch because we want to be robots in the business world. We definitely want to be calculated killers. But when it comes to on the home front, whether it be with a girlfriend, a wife, your kids, you definitely have to be able to flip that switch and change your mentality. So relationships, when I think of a relationship, I think of someone who's going to support me, is going to love me, is going to understand that we're not always going to necessarily have time to spend together, especially in the early years. When somebody's building their empire, they're not going to have time to Netflix and chill. They're not going to have time maybe to go to that movie. They're not going to have time to do this and that. And look, we're not saying that we're not
Available.
yeah, that we're not available. We're definitely capable of juggling multiple things at once, but definitely someone who's understanding and understands the vision and understand that things are temporary. They come and go. Work comes and goes. When we do have opportunities, we have to jump. And going back to one of my original points, sometimes that energy has to be concentrated. And when that energy needs to be concentrated, you definitely need to be focused on one thing at a time. And then, there's spring, there's summer, there's winter, there's fall. There's definitely times, even coordinating with your business world or your professional world, there's definitely times of peace when you can spend more time with your significant other. But in times of war, you have to be hyper focused.
I like that. And not to discredit how you think or what you're saying, but it sounds to me like you've gone through heartbreak and you have learned to fucking overcome that shit. But what I want to know is how did you overcome? If I'm wrong, tell me. If you've never had your heart broken.
No, 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 no. We've had our heart broken. We've definitely met some colorful people in our life, and we've definitely had our heart broken. I for sure have. I think everyone deals with heartbreak a little bit differently. I definitely want to concentrate on one thing, and that's that every situation that is involving two people definitely has two sides to every story, and there's two different ways to interpret something. Heartbreak is a bitch, and I think anybody who's lived an eclectic life has definitely gone through heartbreak. I think, and this is not advice to anybody, this is just what worked for me, but when I went through my last heartbreak, I fucking buried myself in work. And I had the best professional year of my life.
Turn pain into positivity.
Turn negativity into positivity, my friend. And this is not a prescription to anybody else, but this is just something that worked for me. Now, there was definitely lonely nights. I definitely had to go through a lot of just soul searching of who exactly is the person that I want to be and what exactly is going through my head when it comes down to like my decision making and such. But for me, at least, I think instead of wallowing, I think you need to concentrate that energy into something positive. And for me, it was my business.
I like that. I like that. I mean, I don't know if you broke a heart or they broke your heart, but lady, take them back, please. But just to kind of jump on a little bit more on that, what would your advice? And I know what you were saying, like this is not specific advice for everybody, but what would your advice be to those men and women out there who, when they go through a heartbreak, they end up getting promiscuous, they end up wanting to drink their life away, they end up wanting to party? What? Because to me, it sounds like that's not your outlet. Your heartbreak, to me, your heartbreak seems like it motivated you to be a better person. But unfortunately, we live in a world where that's not everybody.
Yeah.
So what would your advice be to because me personally, a heartbreak doesn't mean go fuck 1,000 people, go to the bar and find someone new. To me, it's focus on yourself, but not everybody has a mentality. What would your advice be to someone whose outlet after heartbreak would be to drink and to fuck anybody else?
Yeah, I think it's going back to our point where we were talking about that friend who only wants to go clubbing with you, right? That friend who wants to deal with stress through a very one-sided, narrow-minded way of thinking. So it will offer you temporary pleasure, but at the end of the day, you will still feel heartbroken. It's not going to offer you any type of solace or any type of comfort. It may feel good in the moment, but like I said, the people who deal with anything, coping mechanisms, and deal with things that are temporary pleasures, they quickly find out that those pleasures are temporary. And one way or another, you have to get to the root of the issue. So if we're going to respect ourselves and respect our time, why wouldn't you get to the root cause of the problem and save yourself all that wasted energy trying to put coping mechanisms in the way? I'm a big believer of identifying a problem, finding the solution, and then from there you can decide what you want to do.
That's actually really smart, because I feel like a lot of people, when they go through heartbreak or pain in general, they don't want to focus on it because it's hurting them. But what they don't realize is that no, you're being hurt, you're heartbroken for a reason. Figure out why rather than running away from it. Because I think that's what it's easy to do. That it's easy to get your heart broken. It's easy to go through adversity, pain, struggle, divorce, getting fired, and to run to the next thing that, like you said, give you temporary pleasure. But what we don't realize is that sometimes that temporary pleasure is going to create pain, more pain.
Sure.
And I think a lot of us fail to realize that. And the fact that you're so on lock on how to overcome adversity, heartbreak, pain, I'm curious about something. What in your life keeps you motivated? Because to me, it's obvious that you have your goals in your brain and you want to achieve them, but what keeps you motivated to continue to have this mentality? Because just little backstory for me, there's been moments in my life where I go through something and it just breaks me. I fall to my knees and I have to start over, rock bottom. But to me, it sounds as though you're just, and now I'm obviously wrong, because not every day is about motivation. It's about consistency. But what keeps you in that motivated, consistent mindset?
You know what? That's a really good question. I think the word that comes to my mind when, just as you're talking right now, as you're describing it, I think legacy comes into my mind. Legacy. What type of legacy do I want to leave to my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren? If all you're thinking about is your lifetime, then you are going to be narrow-minded. You're not going to be thinking about the long term. And the difference between people who think about the short term and think about the long term is they're making their decisions based off of other people, whereas short-minded people are making their decisions very short-term, just based off of things that are going to be beneficial for them. Now, I'm not saying don't look out for yourself. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it's not a good thing to set short-term goals that are beneficial for you, right? But you have to have a North Star. You have to have a compass that points north, that is always showing you the way. And for me, the way is making sure that I make my look. I'm talking about my kids like they're not even here. I don't even have.
No, but that has to be like that.
I don't have any kids, people. I don't have any kids that I know of currently, but but I definitely think about them every day, and every decision that I make definitely goes based off of making them proud and making their children proud, and making sure that they have a patriarch that they could look up to. And hopefully, if I do my job correctly, then they could pick up where I left off and continue to multiply. But back to your original question, I would say legacy is the word that comes to mind.
No, that's good. That's good, especially because you're clearly focused on you, but for a purpose. And I think a lot of people get lost in that. A lot of people are like, no, I got to do this for me. But it's like, yeah, you, but also what comes after you, which is usually family. Let's face it. How many people right now are in their 50s and 60s and don't have a family, So it's important to just work on you, but with the intent to create something for the people after you.
Yeah, 100%.
I like that. Now, it seems to me that you got your head on straight. Obviously, anybody listening is not going to be like, this motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, it's clear that you know exactly what you want to do and how to do it, and you're moving forward every single day. But with that being said, what do you do during the days to keep you kind of level-headed? Because let's face it, in your world, it's stressful. I got a 9-to-5, stressful. So yeah. It's just like, well, I'm sure what you're doing is like top tier stress, but what do you do throughout the day to kind of keep you sane and level-headed?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. We live in a hyper competitive world, and especially the business world. Like we were talking about earlier, business world is 24/7. It's the number one competitive sport in the world. It does not have a shot clock. The ball never stops rolling. When somebody else is working, you could be sleeping. When you're sleeping, somebody else is working. So there's constantly all these elements that seem to be working against you. But I think, and big credit to my dad, I think I'm just a competitive person by nature. So when I see a potential opportunity, I want to 100% pounce on it. I want to make sure that I did everything I could to make sure that I seized the opportunity. And if for whatever reason it doesn't end up working out, I'm also a big believer that if it's not meant for me, it's not meant for me. You can't lose anything that wasn't yours in the first place. So I know that things work in my favor, and I know that if things don't work out, then it wasn't the best thing for me.
Or meant for you.
Yeah. I love it. It's kind of like the. Have you heard the story of the Chinese farmer?
I think I have. I
Yeah.
think I have literally. I think I have like just recently, but go off on it.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so real quick, so pretty much, so it's a farmer, right? And one day his horse, he opens the stable and his horse runs away, and then his neighbors come and they say, "Oh my goodness, that's awful, isn't it?" And he goes, "Maybe." The next day, 7 wild horses find their way into his stables, and all the neighbors come and they're all excited for him. They say, "Wow, all these horses came to your stables. That's great, isn't it?" And he goes, "Maybe." The next day, his son is opening one of the stables, and the horse snaps and breaks the kid's leg. And all the neighbors come, same thing. They go, "That's terrible, isn't it?" And he goes, "Well, maybe." And the next day, the general is coming into town. He's the officer that's taking people off to war. And he looks at the son, and he goes right past the son. He has a broken leg. And now all the village people come and they say, "Oh, look at that. That's amazing, isn't it?" And the farmer goes, "Well, maybe." And I think the core value of that story is just letting people know that you never know if something's going to be inherently good or bad. You just have to take it as it comes and know that eventually everything works out in your favor.
Take things day by day.
Yep.
Allow things to happen without overexerting emotion within it.
100%.
Because I think a lot of us right now who struggle, you're giving too much emotion to something that is supposed to be temporary.
It's meant for you.
Yeah.
It was meant to be for you.
Yeah. And I think, it's funny, that can be compared to anything, to success and to losses, to heartbreak, to finding new love. Just be happy that you're going through something.
Yeah.
Because what does suck, and this is something that actually I have typed up in my notes for a future episode, but I was talking about how sometimes we create trauma by holding on to temporary events in life.
Absolutely.
So, like, for me, I'm big on relationships and talking about it. So I compare what I say to relationships, but it's kind of like a lot of us aren't happy because we're holding on to a guy or a girl, when it's just like, this is why you're now in deeper pain than you should have been, because you're holding on to something far much harder and longer when you should have just let it go because it was temporary. We're trying to create lifelong things out of temporary situations.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Let him or her go. If it's meant to be, you guys will find your way back to each other. If it's not meant to be, you guys will not find your way back to each other. If you're hanging on to the person, you are closing all the opportunities that are coming forth to you, right? So I think, especially in relationships, I think you shouldn't dwell on the past. You should definitely be forward thinking, and everything that's meant for you is meant for you. So if it's meant to be, you guys will find your way back to each other and live happily ever after.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you continued the relationship talk. I was just saying it, but that's actually a very good message. Now, you are a smart person. You're very, very educated.
I would hope so.
You're very educated in business. Now, unfortunately, we live in a world right now where starting a business is terrifying. It's terrifying because it's like, unfortunately, a lot of us who live with depression, anxiety, other mental health related issues, illnesses, we're seeing the negative before seeing the positive. So a lot of us don't start the ventures that we believe are going to be great, and for that, a lot of us miss opportunities out of fear. And I'm sure you're a human being. You know what fear feels like. You're not exempt from fear. How do you overcome the fear to start something new or to keep going even though you know failure is real?
Yeah. Shout out Jim Rohn. He says, uh, life is risky. The minute you were born, it got risky. Getting married is risky. Having kids is risky. Everything is risky. And then he ends it by saying, I'll tell you how risky life is. You're not going to get out alive. So
Oh shit. For a second I was like, what do you mean? But I got it real quick.
So
that's very true.
So why not take risk, right? I think relationships, business, everything is going to be risky. There's never a right time. Like any investor will tell you, you can't time the market. You can only stay tried and true to what you know is best. So instead of trying to time it out, time the market, time, you're getting yourself into an analysis paralysis where you don't get anything done. So if you're going to be the person that listens to family members or friends that tell you how risky it is, you shouldn't get in, well, now they could be, truthfully, they could be trying to help you. They could be doing the best they can for the advice that they're trying to give you. But at the end of the day, if they haven't gone through it themselves, then they're just holding you back.
Got you. So when it comes to asking for advice, you know, you feel it's best to ask people who know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah, like if I'm gonna build furniture, I'm gonna go to a carpenter. If I'm going to invest in the stock market, I'm going to go to Merrill Lynch. If I'm going to start a business in a field that I did not know previously existed, I'm gonna go to the people that have done it before. Those are the professionals. And I feel like a lot of these people, some of them are authors, some of them write books, and I'm a big proponent of leaders are readers. And if somebody could compress 20 years of experience and you could knock that out in a couple days of reading, then why the fuck wouldn't you?
It's true. And you know what's funny? There's so many books out there. There's so many podcasts. There's so many people giving speeches, and yet the people who are struggling don't invest in those little like pathways to just kind of gain some new knowledge.
Yeah, it's a cheat code. It's a cheat code. You could read these books, and look, I'm not saying, like, I didn't start off being a reader. Like, I hated reading. I worked my way in with audiobooks and whatnot, but you're not going to think every single page is gold. You're not going to think maybe 50% of the book isn't even useful for you. You read these books so that you can put yourself in the position to pick up these little nuggets. And sometimes there's only one or two nuggets in a book. Sometimes you pick up a book and you can't stop reading it. There's so many nuggets. They're just coming at you like crazy.
Yeah.
But you at least have to put yourself in a position to get this knowledge. Because if you are a leader, if you do coordinate a team, if you do have people that look up to you, could be siblings, could be classmates, could be teammates, could be coworkers, the more information going into your head is the more information that you can share. And I think that's one of the greatest forms of showing love, is being able to share knowledge with the people that you love.
You know, that's actually a very, very great point to make, because I feel like a lot of us, we don't think like that. And that's what's depriving us from the opportunities that we can be excelling within. A lot of us hide ourselves from our opportunities and don't even realize we're hiding ourselves from opportunities. But it's good to be there. It's good to be present. It's good to be surrounding yourself with people who are on a similar path.
Yep.
And you know what? With that being said, I'm curious, how do you separate yourself from people who are not on your path? This is probably a blindsided question, but it just popped in my head.
Yeah. And that's a very, very good question. How do you separate yourself from people who are not on your path? Well, to start off, they shouldn't be in the same room as you. Start off, they shouldn't even be in the same room as you. If they're in the same room as you, it's because you're picking up your coffee, right?
Oh, shit.
I'm just saying, they should not be in the same room as you. If you're spending more than an hour of your time a day in a room full of people who are not on the same path as you, then you're doing it wrong, my friend. And I understand that we live in a society where sometimes people don't want to let other people know that they're not on their level. I understand that, for a lot of people out there, hold down 9 to 5s, and you have that shit coworker who you're forced to work with, And then you have those coworkers who are 100% online with exactly it is that you're trying to accomplish. So I would say if you're put into situations where there's nowhere to go, there's nowhere to run, I would say just limit the amount of time you listen to them and limit the amount of time that they listen to you, and just limit interactions. But yeah, I mean, if you do have full control of who you spend your time with when you're not at work, I would definitely say that yeah, be mindful of it, be conscientious of it. And it's hard because sometimes, especially in the very beginning, there are people that are very close to you, so it's hard to distance yourself from people who are not on the same path as you. But stay the course. You'll run into people if you do your research and you're putting yourself in the right places. Eventually, you'll be surrounded by the people who are on the same path as you, and I think that's what we should strive to do.
Yeah, it's really important. It's really important to do that. And I've over the years I've realized that like, you hang out with a bunch of people who are doing one thing, you're going to get good at doing that one thing. And life is not meant to single yourself to do it just doing one thing. And I think I'm picking that up from you. That kind of like let's kind of jump into more of the business aspect.
Sure.
For you, it's like, yes, you were telling me earlier about the restaurant business, but the ventures that you and your dad are now, going towards. And it sounds to me that at the end of the day, it's multiple sources of income. And I know we were talking about how money doesn't make you happy, but it brings some sort of elevation to what can be happiness in your life. How important is it now I'm kind of, like I said, jumping more on the business aspect. How important is it to have multiple sources of income to you, and what advice would you give to other people about that?
It's super important. I think if the pandemic proved anything, it's that there's very, very few industries that are pandemic proof. And of those industries, let's be honest, there's only a handful of industries that can survive the pandemic. And, you're not exactly going to automatically become like a pharmaceutical expert and build hospitals and stuff. So just keeping it very, general, I think you should have multiple sources of income. I think it could be something as easy as having, selling things on the side, having your 9 to 5, but also having little extracurricular things, little hobbies that you do. And the weekends are a beautiful time to do that, because the weekends you have so much time to, go shopping at yard sales and whatnot. Um, people that use the weekend to de-stress typically get off to a slow start on Monday, right?
Oh, I like that.
If you're really, really hungry, like honestly, if you're really hungry and you're really trying to get after it, and your goal is to have multiple sources of income, the weekend is the time and place to do it, because the weekend is free time. It's up in the air. You can do whatever you want, right? Now, if you choose to go get drunk and now you're carrying a hangover all the way through Sunday, and all automatically leads you into a groggy Monday. Now you're barely getting through Monday, you're getting through the week, and then you're kind of getting stressed just thinking about how much time it took you to get over that hangover, how much you spent at the club, what happened with this, what drama went down. I put myself in a situation I didn't want to. There's the Uber, now there's throwing up outside the Uber, whatever the case may be. Ladies. Now the weekend is a beautiful time where you could focus on those side hustles. And I say the weekend because a lot of people, they have families to go home to after work. They might be tired.
9 to 5.
9 to 5. They got to do laundry. I get it. I completely get it. But if you do have that 9 to 5, you're not going to sit here and tell me that you do not have Saturday and Sunday free. I get it. The kids take up a certain amount of time, but let's just say you have 4 solid hours on Saturday and Sunday that you can do anything. I'm pretty sure anybody can. The oldest trick in the game is just wholesaling. You buy something for cheap, sell it for more expensive, and if you could scale that, I think that's the number one thing to do right now. Another really good industry to get into, and I know everyone that's tech savvy out there, social media and whatnot, you guys can curate your Instagram perfectly. You can edit the photos to make it look like the best lighting, how you look like when you're the best. Make sure the background is right. You could even Photoshop a person out of the photo. If you have those skills and you can apply them to your personal Instagram, why not approach a mom and pop business who doesn't have a social media presence, ask them to represent them on a social media platform, and get a little couple $100s every month. And if you could do that for 4 or 5 different businesses, well, now you have yourself a side hustle.
You know what? you saying that is so eye opening, because it's true. How many of us grew up being like, you remember the MySpace days, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
I was the worst at that shit. I had
Yeah.
to Google codes and all that shit. But there was people who were like making their MySpace look crazy as fuck.
Oh, it was tricked out.
Yeah, but then and you're right. Instead of just doing that for like your personal shit that doesn't make you anything, approach people. Just put yourself out there. Now, unfortunately, not a lot of us have that confidence. Not a lot of us have that willpower to put themselves out there. And this can be compared to anything in life. Putting yourself out there will always give you more than not putting yourself out there. How do you maintain your confidence? How do you put yourself out there in the world to continue going? Because I'm not gonna sit here and be like you never feel insecure, because you're a human being. Insecurities are, they don't discriminate. How do you overcome moments in life where it's just like, oh, I'm a little bit insecure, I'm a little bit, unsure, and how do you just put yourself out there?
That's a really good question. I think it comes from preparation. I think you feel most confident when you know that you're prepared for something. And it, like the saying goes, like, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready, right?
Yep.
So
Facts.
if you're constantly on your toes, if you're constantly observant of the things that are going on around you, you've already contemplated all possible situations, right? Whether it's going up to a pretty girl or going up to
A mom and pop shop.
a mom and pop shop, right? Keep it super simple. If you're a prepared person and you're a calculated person, well, you're a thinker, right? And you've already thought about the worst case scenario. So if you've thought about the worst case scenario and you've already know how you will deal with the worst case scenario, then that is a confident person. That confident person, before anything happened, and now I'm not saying they're going into the situation thinking the worst and, oh man, this is going to happen, but you've contemplated the good, and without bad, there is no good. So you've contemplated both in a way. And you will feel confident. You will feel confident with preparation. You will feel confident knowing that you've done all your due diligence. And I think that's where my confidence comes from. Now, I don't want to sit here and say I'm confident all the time. I'm definitely not confident all the time.
Yeah.
I'm a human being. I have feelings. My feelings could get hurt at times. So I'm not going to sit here and say that
You're not a robot.
Yeah, I'm not a robot. As much as I would like to be a robot, I'm not a robot. But anyway, whether someone says something good to me, I don't let myself get too high, or whether someone says something negative to me, I don't let myself get too low. I definitely stay even keel, accept compliments, and when somebody tells you something negative, instead of rejecting it, I take it as thank you so much for that constructive criticism. But if I know that I did my due diligence and I know I did my preparation, then I'm in a good shape.
So it sounds to me like, because right now there's this there's like this bullshit going on around where people consider overthinking a bad thing. Oh, don't overthink. But it sounds to me like it needs to be separated into two ways of thinking. Overthinking can be bad, but overthinking can be beneficial. And what you put more of your focus on is using the overthinking as something positive rather than getting lost in the negative. Yeah. And I think that's not a story. What you're saying is not a story. What you're saying is your lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we need to learn to separate ourselves from enough overthinking on the negative, overthink on how you can use what you've thought about into stepping stones. Because a lot of us get lost in, oh shit, like, woe is me. It's like, oh, why this is a hard time for me. This is difficult for me. And it's just kind of like, hold on, wait, pause, think about the alternative. And then rather than telling somebody don't overthink, like, I hope what people pick up off this is, yes, overthink, but overthink in a way where it's going to benefit you. It's very easy, but we're just so prone to thinking the worst.
Yeah. And it's primitive, right? We need to think the worst case scenario because from an ancestral point of view, that was how we survived. Yep. By thinking of the worst case scenario. But we are not our ancestors. We are not the cavemen. And I think we can find comfort in knowing that no one's going to die. No one is going to die. The girl is either going to say, yes, she wants my number, or no, she does not want my number.
Fellas or ladies.
Look, you're either going to get confronted with a business opportunity. They're either going to say yes, or they are going to say no. And if they say no, you keep it moving. If they say yes, then according to plan, the preparation was already done.
Yep. We have to learn to stop saying stagnant. We have to learn to stop allowing these L's, these no's, these whatever rejections. We have to stop letting those things stop us from living. And it's super clear that you have lived your life like that. Because, I mean, let's face it. Like I said earlier, I was talking about how if you've ever been discredited for the lifestyle you come from. Because, like I said, I'm not saying you come from money, but I'm saying you come from success. But what I've learned throughout life is that just because you come from success doesn't mean you're going to keep success. It requires work to maintain success.
100%.
And to me, it's kind of like one of those situations just in life in general. You know, you're not going to always be happy, but you have to maintain it.
Yep.
And what a lot of us fail to realize is that sometimes life is going to smack you in the motherfucking face. Yep. And you can either take it on the chin and keep it pushing or just resort to just wallowing in your sorrow. And that's what keeps a lot of us in depression.
Yep. Yeah, I like what you touched on right there with one thing is having something, right? Another thing is maintaining it. And the next level to that is watching it multiply and watching it flourish. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, there's three different types of people, right? There's people that take their scenario and make it worse. Those are the people you have to avoid at all costs. They're self-sabotagers. They will do whatever it takes to make sure that themselves, along with anyone who's around them, goes down with them. Then you have the people who maintain. Those people are probably harmless. They probably mean well, you know. They take some type of situation and they don't make it worse. They don't make it better. They just kind of maintain it. And then the third, of course, which would be my favorite, is the people that fucking multiply. The people that take a scenario and say, how can I make this better? They walk into a room, the room is dirty. After they leave, the room is clean. The next person that comes along says, what happened here? Oh, yeah. That was that one guy. He just came through here and he cleaned the whole thing. Wow. Now that's a man.
I like that. And I like that because what you've just said, what people hear from what you just said, they need to pick up that you have to do something. Always do something about your situation. Always. You can't just take, and just to kind of reference the second kind of person that you were mentioning, those people, yeah, they probably mean well, but those aren't going to be people who help you elevate. They're going to be people who's like, oh yeah, all right, and not do anything after that.
Yeah, 100%.
So like, it's not wrong to be around those people, but you can't surround yourself with too many people like that. And to be the person who creates something out of nothing should be the goal type of person to be.
Yep. Leave every situation better than how you found it.
I like that.
Every interaction you have with someone, they should feel better about themselves than they did before they went into the interaction. Every room you walk into, at least try to add some value. And sometimes you are the learner. Sometimes you are the listener. Sometimes it's hard to add value. But sometimes in your silence, that's how you can add the most value. So let's not think that you have to walk into a room bashing walls, proving to everyone, you know, how badass you are. Sometimes the best way you can add value is to be silent and to just observe and to learn.
You know, I'm glad you said that, because we live in a world too now where the whole point of living is to prove yourself. But sometimes you don't got to do that. You just got to go with the flow, take the punches as they come, and learn what you learn from without having to make a skeptical about yourself. And just kind of flow with the motion of the ocean and not try to create waves, because sometimes your silence will create the wave necessary for you. And I'm really glad that you brought that up.
That was really good.
I know. Thanks. I'm just kidding. no, but in all seriousness, it's just one of those things where it's just like a lot of us fail to realize these little lessons that we can just learn by just shutting the fuck up.
Yep.
And it goes with saying, it's always like, this is something that I learned from my dad a long time ago, that the man that walks around clenching his fists is not tougher than anybody, because he's trying to look tough. But it's not about looking tough. You can just like a Joe Rogan, you know, you see Joe Rogan in the street and he's another short buff guy.
Yep.
But you don't realize he'll fucking beat the fuck out of you, but he's a nice fucking dude.
Yeah.
And walking in the room with your fist clenched, you know, like back in school or back in whatever, you know, you see that person in the club drunk trying to start shit. They're not tough, because it's not how loud you want to move that proves who you are. it's just being yourself. Sometimes being yourself is quiet, not concerned about what other people say, do, think, and feel, and just living your life peacefully.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think those people are trying to prove themselves to all the wrong people, right? They're trying to prove themselves to the world instead of finding inner peace.
Yep.
And the the problem with trying to prove yourself to everyone, now everyone wants to be recognized, right? Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to get that recognition that you're doing a good job, that you're heading in the right direction. But if you focus too much on your energy on trying to prove everyone right, you you stop tending to your own. You stop tending to your own garden. And I think it's super important for everyone to be focused on themselves. Now, granted, along the way, you're going to pick up accolades, you're going to pick up some rewards, you're going to pick up some compliments from people. But man, I feel like that person that walks around clenching their fists, they just have not found inner peace. They want inner peace. They really, really want it. But they're going about it the wrong way. So I think focusing your energy on things that are more positive, knowing that you're making yourself happy, I think that's the right way to go. But I love that analogy that your dad uses. I think it's super applicable in any type of industry.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing I ever picked up from him. The only thing, but the best thing. Now, I'm very curious because you're a busy person, and if somebody judges you based off on what you drive or how you dress, that you're not a busy person, then they're idiots. But my point is that being a busy person and understanding these core values that you've expressed, I can also see that you learn to find time for yourself. Now, what does Victor do to give himself time for himself? Like do you hit the gym? Do you go to the beach? Do you what is it that you do that brings you that inner peace?
I binge drink and I do drugs.
I believe it.
No. I actually really enjoy working out. I really like starting my day working out. I think one of the secrets to my success is being able to wake up in the morning, get up, even though I don't want to get up. I get up, I work out, I finish the workout, I go home, I shower, I look at myself in the mirror, naked. I'm happy at the work of art that I've created. I feel like if I am this disciplined to keep up with my physical health, then I'll be this disciplined to keep up with my financial health, my spiritual health, all of the above. So I think that's what I do. I like to work out. I like physical activity. I like throwing weight around. I like going to the beach. I like surfing, one of my passions. Yeah, I like enjoying the simple things as much as I like enjoying fast cars, and I like going to nice places to eat. I feel like when I'm most happy is when I'm enjoying the simple things.
I like that. That's something that everybody should pick up on, is enjoy the simple things, because a lot of us immerse ourselves in like the extent of our bills, and we live in a debt filled world right now, and a lot of us like, oh, I just got to work. I got to lower my bills. I got to do this. I got to do this. But we don't enjoy the simple things.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy to think about it, because you say you like to surf. Going to the beach is so easy. But yet when the days are tough, some of us are like, no, I got to stay inside and do nothing and just wallow in the sorrow. And it's like, literally just get on the 405, go to Huntington,
Right.
It's so easy. It's so simple, but we don't see it as something simple to do. We see it as like taking us away from what we believe we have to do, when in reality it's going down that road to the simple thing that will bring you, even if it's temporary joy, that is necessary.
Yep, absolutely.
And it seems to me like you found a balance within that. Give yourself time, and then give your family time, and give your business, well, majority of the time, because it's tough to maintain, but it seems like you found a balance. And hearing you speak, I understand that you are a very structured person, and you found peace, love, and joy and success in being structured.
Yeah, we're not done yet. We're definitely not done yet. The finish line is very, very far away. There has to be a balance. You have to strive to accomplish new goals, and as you get more successful in personal life or in this specific situation in the business world, the numbers get bigger, the transactions get bigger. You have to be able to work towards something, but at the same time, there is a balance of being able to look at a sunset and just sit there and admire the sunset, or roll down the windows of your car and feel the air hitting your face. There has to be a balance of being able to motivate yourself with things that have not yet come, but also appreciating the things that are right there next to you.
It makes a lot of sense. You can't get lost in that temporary part of happiness, and you have to immerse yourself into a state of mind where it's just like, this was wonderful, but let me not get stuck on it.
Yeah, 100%.
Let me get back to work. Let me get back on the grind. And it's clear that you're a motivated person, but once again, you're not a robot. You're not motivated every day. What do you do to stay consistent? We kind of touched on it a little bit before, but we didn't expand on it. But what do you do to stay consistent on the days that you're not on the days that you're not motivated? Like, do you tell yourself anything? Do you have any like little side things that's just like, do you meditate? Do you what is it that you do to kind of maintain that focus?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And just to not sound too mundane, because obviously I could only preach self-discipline, rah, for so long. I hold myself accountable, but I don't think we can underestimate, and this, females have female friends, males, we have our pack of brothers. I don't think we can underestimate the accountability that having being surrounded by all these brothers around you. And granted, I don't have any brothers growing up, but I have cousins and I have friends and people that have grown with me, and they definitely hold me accountable for little things like making sure gym, making sure XYZ. This cannot be overlooked. This cannot be overstated, because on those days when I'm not feeling motivated, I have a lot of people that I look up to, and I have a lot of people that look up to me, and it's a two-way street. So, like you alluded to, I am in fact not a robot. Yeah. I am a human being. I do go through ebbs and flows of motivation, but I would say on those, there's not many of them, but. Yeah. On those singular days where I don't feel motivated, I think it's my boys that keep me motivated and keep me on the right track. They don't have to do it too often, but when they see me veering off, they know what they have to do.
That's actually good. That's a good point to bring up again, because I know we talked about friendship and we talked about keeping the right people around you, the right team, but that's also important to make sure that the people that are around you are that source. I don't want to say source of motivation, but that source of comfort to fill that gap that's lacking the motivation. Yeah. Absolutely. But then that kind of goes back to what we talked about, how like you can't hang out with those people that constantly want to take you into toxic regions, rather than hanging out with someone that's like, yo, you're not doing that great right now. I get it. I'm not going to make you feel worse by dragging you to this club and make you but you know what, I really like that you touched on that topic, because it's good to surround yourself with not only homies that you can go to party with, but just kind of like surround. And this is doesn't have to do with just friends, everybody, like family in general. And the reason why I want to bring that up is because, how do you feel about the importance in family, and how do you feel about having to separate yourself from family members that don't necessarily see your vision? Now, you sound like you come from a very tight-kept family that all have the same goal in mind, which is to continue to move forward in life. But how do you overcome challenges with family members that don't see your vision?
You cut them the fuck off. No, I'm just kidding. Different people have different motivations. Even coming from a business background, a lot of my family members are entrepreneurs. Some of them work amazing 9-to-5 jobs. They're tenured, and they have a sick retirement plan. So, but for my family members that are entrepreneurs, that are business owners, they all are very focused. I think everybody kind of falls into their own bubble of exactly like where their comfort level is. Some people have an X number, and when they reach that X number, they're comfortable. Some people are more competitive. I tend to gravitate towards the ones that want to conquer the world, because those are the ones that keep me on my toes. Those are the ones that keep me competitive. But going back to your question, the ones who don't, The ones who aren't supportive, the family members who aren't supportive.
Exactly.
Well, they're supportive when they want to drive in my Porsche.
When
They're-
they want
they're
those
supportive
Instagram
when-
pictures.
They're supportive when they want a loan for some idea that they have or some vacation they want. Going back to the beginning of the podcast, we said that money doesn't buy happiness, and I agree, it doesn't buy happiness. I said that money doesn't automatically make me happy, but money doesn't automatically depress me either. So if somebody is not supportive, and that could come in many different ways, maybe they don't agree with my business model, maybe they don't agree
With
where
your
I'm
method.
focusing my time, or whatever the case may be, whether the day comes or not where they need my help, I just want them to know that they have my full support despite not giving me their support.
Sounds to me that staying humble is the main source to getting over any kind of negativity from anybody.
Yes.
Because you understand, okay, you're a negative person, but rather than being fuck you and fuck off, it's more like, I see where you're coming from, but I'm not going to allow your energy to fuck mine up.
Absolutely. And it's all love. Peace and love.
I like that. And you know what? And that's important because I'm pretty sure, once again, I don't mean this to sound offending to you or anybody who has a level of success that you've reached, but I'm pretty sure it's intimidating, right? Let's be fucking real. You surround yourself with all kinds of people, and some people just are not at your level. And it must be difficult sometimes to be accepted by everyone. But at the same time, it's important to not destroy yourself for not being accepted by somebody.
Yeah, never lose sight of who you are. Definitely, when you walk into a room, know exactly what you've been through and know exactly what you bring to the table, but also read the room. I'm not the type of guy who's going to walk into a room talking about business and investing to people who don't give a fuck. Mm-hmm. Definitely read the room. I want to know how your kid is doing in their Boy Scouts. I want to know how they're doing in soccer. I want to know what are the difficulties that you may have at work with your coworkers. To those family members, I never want to be the person that reaches a level where they can't have basic humanity with people, right? So, when it's appropriate, you talk about business. When it's appropriate, you talk about family. And when it's appropriate, you talk about money, but you have to be able to separate the two.
Yeah, it sounds to me that you've mastered that. Maybe not mastered, but that's a strong word, but you have figured out the cheat code into being true to yourself. And I don't want to say this like in a bad way, but okay, for example, bipolar, people who are bipolar, they have like different personalities. And yeah, bipolar is bad. I'm sorry for anybody who suffers through that. And I wish you the best. But it's good to have different personalities in the sense of reading the room and being who you need to be with certain people.
Yeah, you have to be a social chameleon.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, you have to be able to change based off of your environment, and that doesn't mean that you're not true to yourself. That just means being able to identify certain nuances that tells you, okay, maybe it's time for, maybe it's not time to talk about this. Yeah. Maybe it's time to touch on other topics.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to ask questions and listen instead of being the one talking. I think if you're sometimes, like we were saying earlier in the podcast, sometimes you just need to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You don't know it all. We're constantly learning. We're constantly students. And when you're with family, you have to be able to change the conversation in a unique and different way, because life does not revolve around money. Although we said that money makes your life easier, it doesn't necessarily make you happy, and not everyone can relate to it. So I think just being able to have empathy and understanding everybody's particular situation, and I do really care about my family, and I do really care about my extended family, and I do really care about the troubles they may go to in a day-to-day life, because although I might have a cousin who's a factory worker, he could give me some super insight into the life of a factory worker that I didn't know beforehand. Mm-hmm. So you can learn, man. You can learn from anyone.
So basically, don't be closed-minded. Just because someone comes from a different background doesn't mean it's a shitty background. It's just a different one. And be open to learning how someone else chooses to live their life or advice, and just be open to it. Don't be closed off. Don't be that asshole who, like you said, who thinks they know everything, because that's not going to get you anywhere.
Yep.
I like that. I'm kind of glad that you brought up that, obviously you are very loving and care for your family. How important do you believe family is to your success, and what kind of advice would you give to people who probably feel like being the lone wolf and separating themselves from their family and cutting everybody off? What advice would you give to that person?
Yeah, well, to answer your first question, I think family is super important. And when I say the word family, I know everyone has a different meaning behind family. Everyone has different ideas. Um, for some people, that's their grandparents. For some people, that's their parents. For some people, that's their parents and then their respective step parents, whatever the case may be. Whoever is your family, even down to the people who aren't fortunate enough to have both of their parents or neither of their parents, whoever your family is, whether that be friends that you integrated to family, that is your support system. And I think you can be whoever you want to be to the world, but you have to be your most genuine self to them. Because at the end of the day, the only person that you can count on besides yourself is your family. We have friends, we have acquaintances, but at the end of the day, the core family values are what get you through the day. And sorry, what was the second question?
Honestly, I forgot. But it's because I'm so immersed in what you're saying because I believe it. But let me kind of, it's not a segue, but I'm the kind of person, I separated myself from my family for specific reasons, mental health reasons. Now, let's say I came to you for advice. And let's just say I was in a different world. I'm not going to discredit anybody that's in my life because I do have family, friends, family. I have my mother. But what would you give advice to someone who feels as though they're alone in this process? And you're big on family, so it's kind of a probably a shady area for you. But what kind of advice would you give to someone who is alone?
Yeah.
How does someone who, in your opinion, become successful when they're alone?
Yeah, and I just want to give a caveat. I am in no way, shape, or form, I'm in no way, shape, or form qualified to answer this question because I have had such a strong backbone with my family.
Yeah, just your opinion.
So I personally haven't had that experience, but as I'm trying to formulate what I'm going to say, I'm thinking of myself alone, and I'm thinking of myself with no backbone, no support system. And I think where I would find a connection would be to find these people. We have so many different outlets nowadays, not just books. I think books are amazing. I think books can open up the world for you. But nowadays, with all the social media and everything digital that we have, I think if I didn't have any family and I knew for sure what I wanted to do, I would be on Facebook Marketplace. I would be on Reddit. I would be on all these different forums and all these different chats where I could find people who are like-minded, people that transfer knowledge, give knowledge to each other, and market from there. I mean, I'll credit to people who have no support system and are able to dig themselves out of that ditch and create a network. All respect to them. 100%. My hat tips off to them. But that I'm super unqualified, like I said, to answer that question.
Trust me, I am too. But
that is the best advice I think I could give to someone.
I'm very glad you said that because that's exactly what I was hoping you were going to say. That you have to dive into the world you want to be in and stop worrying about the fucking world that is not bringing you the happiness, peace, or success. Because a lot of us do that. A lot of us get lost in the bullshit that we lived in rather than finding the peace that we want to have. Mm-hmm. Like something that I've learned to understand in life is that if I'm unhappy about my situation, get the fuck out of the situation.
Yeah. And
that's where people fail to realize is that it's until you get out of your shitty situation that you're going to see the light.
Yep.
Instead of trying to fix your shitty situation, just go be with people that care about you. Go be with people who love you. Go be with people who are going to bring you more peace, love, and success rather than trying to fix these broken situations.
Yeah.
And what I've really picked up from you, what I've learned today from you is that is just that. Don't sit in your shit. Walk away, create something new, stay motivated, stay on your grind.
Yep, absolutely. And hang out with people that make you feel energized, right? Hang out with people that make you feel like you're bigger than you actually are. The people who see your true potential. When you walk away from an interaction with a friend, you want to feel energized and you want to feel motivated. You definitely don't want to be around people who have limiting beliefs. The type of people that if you try taking one step forward, they're telling you to take 2 steps back because it's not the right time. You have to be around people who energize you, people that motivate you. And to a certain extent, you almost want to be around people who are better than you. Because if you're around people that are not better than you, then you're moving backwards, not forwards. If you find yourself in a situation where you're spending an excessive amount of time with people who are not better than you, I would say you don't have to cut them off. I would just say limit your time with them. Find people who are better than you, and that way you can climb that ladder of whatever respective industry or sector you're trying to get into.
I like that. I like that a lot because I keep saying this, people realize, or whatever. But I really like that you touched on that because a lot of us don't realize that either. That it's not about cutting people off. It's not about pushing people away. It's about understanding that everything deserves a limit. And you have to limit yourself sometimes in order to grow. But we don't get that. And they don't teach us this shit in school. You know, this is through life. Mm-hmm. So one of the things, we are getting to an hour, 30-minute mark. So I don't want to keep you here too long.
Oh, we're just getting started, baby. This is just the beginning.
I like the motherfucking energy.
This is just the beginning of the podcast, energy. Ladies and gentlemen.
I like
we are
the energy.
Just getting started.
One of the things I do want to say is that I want to give you your flowers because, you know, it's easy to judge someone based on what they post or what they wear. And like I said earlier, let's face it, it's so common to just be judgmental. But you are somebody who clearly was put on this earth to not only find success, but to create this will for other people to want to find success themselves. And I hope that the people who listen to this realize that it's not about where you come from. It's about what you do with your time. And I think the biggest thing that you brought up is limitations. And it's not about cutting people off. It's not about like cutting shit off. It's about limiting yourself. It's basically moderation. I'll say in a different word. And it's moderation to me that shows me that you have built this empire that seems to only be getting bigger out of moderation and limitation. And it sounds to me that you've given yourself most of your time and you have not forgotten about the people that helped you get to that way. And that is an important way to live your life. Because if you want to be one of these motherfuckers who are running around, oh, I did it, me, myself, I got nobody. And it's just like, you're kind of lying. Because in this world, you can't do anything by yourself. So let me ask you this question. If you come off with this very, wonderful personality, strong sense of will, where do you think you would be if you didn't have the support system that you had?
I'd be fucked. No, where would I be without my support system? I guess I've always had a good head on my shoulders, so I've always known who to listen to and who not to listen to. I mean, I would hate to imagine a world where I didn't have my support system, right? Because that's my ultimate. But I think I'd be all right. I think I would be able to look at the world objectively and make my own truth based off of what I see. And I would be able to smell con artists from a mile away. I would be able to see genuine people who have actually, broken their back and gotten to where they want to go. I credit myself to have a pretty good insight into things. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I'd be exactly where I am today. Who knows where I would be. But definitely I can't thank my parents enough, and I can't thank my support system enough, because they're the ones that have gotten me to this point, right? Where would I be? Yeah, I think I'd be all right. I think I have a good head on my shoulders. I think I would be all right. But I know for a fact that my success has been accelerated because of them. So I have to give them the respect and the reverence that they deserve.
I like that. And the reason why I asked, I know it was a random question, but the reason why I wanted to ask that, because I wanted to see where your mentality would be if I asked you somewhat of a negative question. And what I picked up from that is that you remained positive. There have been so many people that I've asked, not just on a podcast, but in life, we're like, oh, I'd probably be, on the street. I'd probably be this. And that's like, hold on, you're being negative about something that isn't even true. And that just goes to show just how positive you can remain, even when thinking about something just like that, if not having a support system. And it's so important to remain positive in every situation of life that you go through. And like we said earlier, you're going to go through pain, you're going to go through heartbreak, you're going to go through losses. And you have that choice, that one fucking choice to make a bad one or a good one. And what I've picked up the most, what I've learned through this conversation is that Victor, you have You yourself have to pick the positive choice.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
I really appreciate you being here, bro, because I know, no offense to the people I've had on this podcast, but I think this has been the best conversation I've had on mental health, on self growth, and just staying resilient. And me personally, I'm going to remember that limitation shit that you said. I don't want to say limitation shit, but let's face it, I'm not.
Yeah, that little bit.
yeah, that, because it's like, that's the one thing I want everybody to really pick up on, is limiting yourself and having limitations in your own heart, mind, and soul to maintain a structured lifestyle. Give your friends time, give your family time, give your girl, your boy, give your significant other, give your kids time, but also give yourself time. And I just want to thank you so much for the thousands of gems that I probably didn't pick up that somebody else is going to pick up. And before really wrapping this up, I want to ask you this. What would be the best kind of advice you would give to someone right now who is in their rock bottom?
That's a really good question. I think the best advice that I could give to someone who feels right now like they're in a depressive episode, that feels like they're at their absolute low, that they feel like they can't go any lower, I would tell them to write down their thoughts. I would ask them to formulate a thought process of how they got to that point. And then I would ask them to reverse engineer that and ask themselves, how can I pull myself out of this? I'm no expert.
Of course.
I'm not going to claim to be an expert in these things, but I would, I'm a very calculated person. So I love finding out how things work backwards and forwards. And I think that would be my best advice, is to ask someone to write down exactly how they're feeling, what emotions they're feeling, and what are the key factors that got them to that point. And then just ask them to try to flip that into a positive, and hopefully they can make their way out of it. And there's no shame in asking for help. There's no shame in calling up a friend and just crying on the phone. There's no shame in that. Friends are going to be there for you. They're going to help you. They're going to offer you comfort. But the person, my friend, that's going to pull you out of that hole is going to be yourself. So that would be my advice.
People, what you just heard right now, yes, he mentioned that he's not the professional to be giving this advice for someone to, like, and neither am I. Let's fucking face it. My college years of psychology doesn't make me a therapist. But people, the thing that I want you guys to pick up the most from this conversation and from this final message, what he just said, and I think that's probably one of the best ways to wrap this up, was it's going to be you who takes yourself out of your dark space. And that's something that we cannot forget. That you can get advice from the whole world. You can pick up all the gems that Victor just said, and hope to God it takes you out of your dark place. But at the end of the day, you wake up and you go to sleep by yourself. And it's important for the person who wakes up, the person who goes to sleep is the same person who takes yourself out of that dark place. And Victor, I just want to thank you. This has been such an intuitive, I don't even know why. I'm not even going to say big words right now. But it was a fucking amazing ass conversation.
I think we killed it, brother.
It was one of the best conversations I had. I'm about to promote the fuck out of this episode. Not because I want the attention, but you know what? What I've learned from you, bro, is the world needs people like you. It needs people like you because you teach people without even having to teach. It's the way you're choosing to live your lifestyle should be something people look up to, because it is a very great way to live your life. You don't let adversity tear you down. You don't let pain or heartbreak change who you are, and you stick to who you are without excuse and without being a dick about it. You're humble, you're smart, you know how to go to the next level. And if people don't want to see that, I'm gonna be fucking blunt. They're dumb. And you are somebody who, like I said earlier, I'm giving your flowers right now because, even though you brought the very nice bottle of tequila, if I had another nice bottle of tequila to give you, I'd be like, here, take this.
Hey, man, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate those words, and thank you so much for the hospitality. I mean, honestly, this is the first podcast that I've ever been on. I've never really publicized my personal and my professional life. But I have to say, you are super hospitable, and I appreciate the kind words, and definitely looking forward to coming back and doing a guest appearance in future episodes.
Yes, no, I was actually thinking about it, like, in my head. If this shit goes fucking well, wait till I get it, like, on video, and you're going to be the first person I asked to be on because, this was a great conversation. This is something that I myself had learned something, so I know everybody else who's heard this is going to learn something. And I feel like there's no other better way to wrap it up. We've given each other flowers. We might just enjoy another glass of tequila. And for just one last thing, I know I keep saying this, but is Victor Ortiz happy?
Oh, man, 100%. I feel like I'm happy. And yet there's still more to accomplish. So I am enjoying the process. I will enjoy the destination. I think the fruits of my labor will be even bigger than I can even imagine. And if I keep doing what I'm doing and stay the course and keep learning and keep growing, I think happiness will just be a byproduct of my work.
Perfect. People, you have just heard the man, the myth, the legend say everything he said. And honestly, he's some of the best shit I've ever heard. So without needing to, extend this longer than it has to be, people, I'm wrapping this up. It's over. Victor, thanks.
Thank you.
This
cheers,
is great.
brother.
Cheers. And we'll see you next time, people. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, my name is Eric Asensio, and you just heard my special guest, Victor Ortiz, go off on how to be a motherfucking legend. And fucking tune in for the next episode. Peace.